So, and then, hi, Darren. How are you?
Hey, good morning, everyone. Or good afternoon, depending when you're up.
Yeah, I was
Hi,
like,
Darren.
these guys have been up for like 8 hours already. Okay, so we're here to talk about our lovely release generation from the API issue. The idea that we had before the break was that we would create a different mechanism for generating a release that wasn't from the Rails side in the YAML file, but it also wasn't from the runner side. So we've created this sub issue of our parent issue about release generation from the API. So I think where we left off last time was Camille added a bunch of feedback with some code snippets about what we should be instrumenting. And Steve, you added some commentary and helped build what we should be implementing as our MVP. So what I wanted to get out of this meeting was understanding what parts should runner be completing, what parts should the release team be completing, and what's realistic for things in 12.8 and 12.9. Sound good?
Perfect.
Do you have anything else, Sean, that you want to add to that, or any questions that you want to dive into right now?
No, I'd really like to talk about the code snippets because I've read through them a few times, but there's still some areas which are not clear to me, and maybe Steve, you might have some insights into some of those. I don't know.
You can maybe share your screen and we'll go
Let's do
through
that.
them.
Yep. Okay, can everyone see that?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
so I'm in the issue at this comment. Okay, so yes, we've got the first part is done, where we, this job token, that's all completely clear to me. And so then, all right, so now extend the runner. So there's a template to add an additional helper command. So I guess my first part is I don't really understand why it's called a helper command, and why is this somehow outside of the runner, is it?
Yeah, so I think you bring up a really good point that it gives me a really good, how to say, ammunition why I don't think it should be in the runner, because it's very confusing, right? Like you're saying, what is this helper command? Like, and it's not just you who's gonna ask that. It's most people are gonna ask that, because the helper command is just a command we have for the runner.
Yep.
That's like a skimmed down runner binary that we use to distribute to Docker images and things like that. So we can upload artifacts and cache and doing some other stuff. So for example, using the Docker executor, we don't just use one container. We use the container that you specify, but then we load a bunch of containers around it that are used to have Git installed and like upload artifacts and things like that. Because in that way, we can't assume that the user has all the software needed to upload an artifact. So we control that. And that's why there's the GitLab runner helper command that does that basically. So that's the idea. And I'd like to keep that like behind the scenes or only technical people who know what they're doing. So that's why if the comment below, if you look at the comment below, I suggested like the drawbacks. If we have it in the helper image and if that one or an independent CLI tool. So if we have it in the independent CLI tool, we will not have questions like you just said, like, what is this helper command doing? Like, do I need to know every command? Because if we do release upload, for example, if we name it release upload, do I need to just know about that, or do I need to know about upload artifacts, compressed zip files and things like that? Do I need to know about all that stuff? So it's like a bit of leaking abstraction in my opinion, but that's one of my suggestions anyways. Like, I don't know what you think about.
No, well, I mean, first of all, I mean, you guys are the runner experts, first of all. And so, entirely happy to defer to you, although I really would like to understand how it works. But I guess something that's really, there's two things that are really completely unclear to me, aside from that. So first of all, I mean, we've got this what are we trying to do with this, right? Because the example we've got here is it's just got like name and changelog, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we're just going to create a very simple release with just the name and the contents of the changelog. That's it. So that's our MVP, is it?
That's how I understood it. So to reiterate how I remember it was being going to be done, it should be in this issue. So the first MVC would be, we will just have a CLI tool to make it easier for you to create releases. Now, we expose that CLI tool. The users have to update their GitLab CI YAML file and the script to use the CLI tool. Now, the CLI tool will have flags like name, description, assets, for example, and so on and so forth. And then in the next iteration, you will define the CI YAML file inside of the CI YAML file, and then transform that block that you proposed earlier. So for example, have the syntax you proposed earlier, release, colon, and then all the information. And then we'll have Rails transform that into the CLI command. So for example, when you have release, colon, name, colon, it will be transformed into release, upload, minus name thing.
Okay, so that's the part where I'm a bit vague. So the first part of the new syntax is already in production.
Okay.
It's already committed to master, and it's just sitting there waiting to be used.
Okay.
And then so the part that I'm not really clear on is how does Rails and the runner communicate with this type of config? Does it get pushed by Rails? Or
so right now it's not being pushed anywhere, like the runner has no information about it. But what Kamel suggested is we have what we, like if you look at the jobs API, we have something what we call steps. I'm not sure if Kamel mentioned that in the issue or not. Let me see. Yes.
So in the jobs resources.
Yeah. So if you look at Kamel's comment point number 3, the API is not documented because it's an internal API.
It's not documented. Okay. Okay. Right.
So if you look at extend definition of a step as seen from runner.
Yeah. So this is but this is all runner type code, right?
Yes. So in Rails, you can define a step. We do that in AfterScript, if I'm not mistaken. So AfterScript is defined as a step, and then we run that step in the AfterScript. So what we would,
would this, I'll have to look into where that is, but would that be something similar to jobs, for example? I mean, is there some existing code that's a bit similar to what we're doing, where we're taking some part of the YAML and then giving it to the runner?
The AfterScript is doing that, as far as I know.
So it would be doing it for the jobs node?
Exactly.
Okay, so
I'm not sure what nodes are involved. Like, I do not know how the YAML is being
right. Okay, I'll have to work it out. Okay. Yep.
But as far as I know, the AfterScript does the same transformation. So it takes the AfterScript node, if you call it node, and then it transforms it into a step in the response.
But then it's what it's doing is it's transforming it and then presenting it in an API endpoint, and the runner makes a call and goes and gets it.
Exactly.
Okay, that's fine. I can work with that. So essentially, from the Rails perspective, it'll be this part here, convert the runner YAML to runner steps.
Exactly.
And probably extend the API, this undocumented API, wherever that is, and make it available somewhere to the runner.
So the API is already available. The structure is already there. And steps are basically just an array of commands that you pass in, right? So you just have to append to that array.
Okay. I mean, once I find the entry point, I think that should be fine.
Yeah. If you want to I can send you the file of where the API is.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Um,
So we do this transformation of the YAML. The runner. So the process would be then the runner or the runner CLI, whatever it ends up being, goes and picks up the configuration. Then it actually processes and then it makes another set of API calls using the existing API, public API, to create the release.
Exactly.
Okay.
So the way it would work is going more into technical details. You define a step, right?
Yep.
Now, that will run on the image that you define, because you can define an image per step. And then we'll take that step definition. The runner will understand it and say, okay, I'm going to spawn up a container. For example, if we're using the Docker container, Docker executor, we're going to spin up a container and run this command in that container. Now, this command will pick up the CI job token automatically and upload it to
the container,
the API, because it has access to the API.
Okay, right. Okay.
So it's like doing kind of like a Docker run and then Docker exec and running the scripts manually and then exiting the container.
Okay. Yep. Makes sense. Yep.
So from the runner side, what we would have to do is we do not understand the steps fully regarding the image part. So we would have to do that, but I think it might be fine without the MVC. I would have to investigate fully how the steps are made to like give you a solid answer. So I can do that async.
Do we need to create an issue for that, Steve, or?
Yes, it's best to create an issue on the runner board, and I'll put some investigation issues.
Okay, so you'll do that part. Can you ping me on it when you do that?
Yeah, let me add it to my to-do list.
Okay, thank you.
And I mean, how would we handle things like, for example, what if there's no change log file, right? Or it can't find it, or it doesn't exist or something? How do we handle errors?
That would be up to the CLI. So if you want to fail on if there's no changelog file, you just exit code that's something that's not 0, and we will fail the job, for example.
So that'll fail the job, and then it'll appear failed in the pipeline.
Exactly.
So this will have its own step own job in the pipeline.
If you want it, or it can be in a other job, for example, in the build job.
At the end of the build.
Yeah, if you want it like that.
Well, because when you think about when should a release be built, right? It should be built after everything's passed, everything's green, right?
Yeah. So yeah, ideally, if I would be doing it like what we do right now, for example, for the runner, we have our own specific stage called release stage. And it's just a bunch of jobs that's uploading to S3, package cloud, and then a specific job that's creating the release object.
Well, that sounds like a pretty good model, actually. Its own stage.
Yeah, because then we can use DAG for it. So when the RPM packages are built, we just release the RPM packages and so on and so forth.
Okay.
Just one clarification, we do have the ability to support upcoming release creation. So I just want to make sure that when you say that it makes the most sense to create a release when everything's been done, people do have the ability to like create a release in the future.
I did not know that. That's cool.
Yeah, it's called upcoming releases.
So that's even better. Like, if we have it in a separate CLI tool, we can have 2 commands, right? Create release and create upcoming release, for example. And this will be the tool that will automate every release creation, for example. Now, going ahead with if we should do it on the runner side or on a specific CLI, I gave my opinion in the comment. if we're gonna extend it, of course, like with the upcoming releases, I don't think having upcoming releases would make sense in the runner code base. Now, the benefit we get if we have it in GitLab Runner is that we will have some stuff already out of the box, like picking up the CI job token and things like that. But we can do that fairly easily as well right now by extending that into a library and have GitLab Runner and your CLI tool import that library, for example.
Yeah.
And this gives you another benefit, right? You're completely responsible of the CLI tool and you're independent from us. Like you do not depend if we add a new flag, you don't have to go to the runner code base and add it and wait for a runner maintainer to review it. You just have a CLI maintainer and you have your own priorities, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And then as we extend this and start doing, like we talked about binary assets and things like that, this CLI would just grow, right? As we add more functionality.
Yeah, and that was one of the questions that I asked, Camille, if that was a feasibility, because that's where we would want to go. And he agreed that, yeah, we can extend it whichever direction we'd want to.
And that's why we would have, again, it would be nice to have it in its own project too, because then it can grow on its own kind of thing.
And so given that we're talking about this, in this way, would that mean that would then become a new project that would be essentially part of the runner team? Is that?
It can be, it will be a new project, yes. And it can be either, I don't think it would make sense to be a runner team responsibility. It would make more sense to be release responsibility.
Release, okay. Well, I guess technically, we can certainly take it on, and but it would be great if I would be appreciated if we could take it on after it was more or less built.
Yes, of course. I do understand, because building CLI tools is not an easy thing, and the runner team has a lot of experience building CLI tools, because I think we've built 6 or 7 now at this point.
And particularly if we're extracting code from the runner as well.
Yeah. So I would need to look at, let me write some notes for this meeting.
So are you guys suggesting that you want the runner team to build a CLI?
Well, I guess I'm wondering what the direction is. Because we're talking. I don't know. I'm not sure what the best direction is, but we need to extract parts out of the runner, right? Or would they be 2 different steps?
Technically, you can already import the libraries. They're in their own libraries. It would be just you're depending on the whole runner code base instead of just one library. So it's not the word. It's not. I'm not sure if you're familiar how Go imports work or not.
No, I'm not really. No.
Okay, so instead of how to say on Rails, I'm not too familiar with Rails. So instead of importing a whole big gem and then just using 3-4 methods, that's what we have to do. But ideally, you just import one gem that has these 3 and 4 methods, for example.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yep.
But we can always do that later if we think it's going to take a long time. Is that more clear, or does that bring up more questions and makes me less comfortable?
No, it's definitely clear. I guess the question that Darren's raised about who's going to actually do it is probably an important question to answer.
Yeah, super important.
Well, Sean, what do you need to be able to do it? Because I think from my standpoint, I want to protect the timeline as much as possible, and
Sure.
Runner has so much stuff that they're doing. And we do have a new teammate, Jaime, who can do Go, and maybe this could be a Go project for him since it's brand new anyways, right? And it would give our team an opportunity to kind of commingle with Steve to understand what like some of the learnings. But I think the biggest risk that I see right now is if we let Runner do it, we don't really have control over
I understand.
our own timelines. We're kind of saying, okay, other team, going ahead and instrument this. And then if long-term we're going to have to support it, it kind of means that we're always beholden to potentially asking another team, how do they build this?
Of course.
So from the protectability of our scope, I would be interested in seeing what we can do on the release side. I am a little nervous as far as timeline though, because that means that we just need more time to figure out like what the heck we're doing, because we don't have experience necessarily doing like a CLI creation or any of that work.
Well, so our new team member Jaime, I had a coffee chat with him yesterday actually. So he's got a lot of experience in Go, although he's only just joined GitLab, like he's really just onboarding at the moment.
Right.
And so, so the other people who worked with him said he's got great Go experience. I don't know how to judge that myself. I'd certainly be able to, I'd be very comfortable working through the Rails side. And so I guess there's kind of like three parts, right? There's the Rails part. There's the extraction of the shared code from the runner into a module. And then there's this new piece, which is the CLI. Which is also going to be written in Go. And so, I agree. It probably should be kept inside our team. But maybe if we could ask you to help with the extraction of the shared code, as well as kind of just be available to consult a bit with the code and, know that we're going in the right direction, because I'm not a Go developer yet, and Jaime's really just started. So,
I mean, at the end of the day, I guess it's up to Darren for me to like put my time, but I can act as kind of a maintainer for the whole thing, like just guide you to the right direction and tell you that you're going well, or like we need to do this instead of like being like down the trenches with you. But again, it's up to Darren. Like,
Steve, this is a good
watching yesterday's
good time for a full-on question for you, Steve. Say nothing else was on your plate right now. No community MRs, nothing else, right? And you're doing this CLI. 5 days, 10 days, we had something that's solid. What do you think, realistically? And you're an expert with the runner code and somewhat with Go as well.
I would say a brand new CLI would take a week and a half, being very, very...
So 2.5 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks, being a bit aggressive.
That's like 5 working days, right? I mean, 2 weeks, right? No weekends,
exactly.
right?
So 10 working days.
Yeah, we definitely need to do the other model then. And then the question, I don't know how much, we'll figure out the timing, obviously, Steve, in terms of your resources, but Jackie and Sean, to Steve's point, what's going to happen next, by Monday is that we're probably going to be clearing the runner release boards 12.9, 13.0 to focus on the next big thing. So we're going to be stretched pretty thin. So obviously we do our best to help. So we'll try to figure this out. But yeah, we're going to be definitely stretched thin in the short term.
Okay. So this is probably one of the coolest things to be working on for us. So this is good. We have the opportunity to learn a lot. And this is me pumping myself up to kind of change my direction page so that I'm not committing to stuff that I can't deliver.
We do have, sorry to cut you off, Jackie. We do have like some Go guidelines on our handbook on how to create CLI tools with Go. So that's a good starter pack. And I mean, CLI tools are like Go is very famous for CLI tools. So you can find
totally.
Jackie, another option we can chat offline. I could talk to Elliot about it, but I'll ping you offline on it, and I'll see what Elliot's thoughts are when he comes on.
Okay, that sounds good. So Sean, I think we should talk to John Hampton about having Jaime be in this. I think from a Go perspective, I like the idea of having someone who's natively a Go developer, and then you can get your Go stuff up to speed, but then he can also have your ownership, so like pair programming in that sense.
Yeah, absolutely. No, my only hesitation on that is like he really has literally just started, and are we But I guess it's a good first issue.
And I do think this is low risk because nobody else on our team has experience with it.
It's a greenfield, sure.
So it's completely new. You have to get ramped up to it too. So I think getting him productive as soon as possible, this is a really cool angle for us to work it from.
Sure.
But again, from John's view, like he manages the team. So we'll talk to him about that. I do feel like that makes me a little bit more confident too in, just our team being able to support all these different things. Like we have redundancy then, you and him could both support this new project that we would be owning as a part of a maintenance stream. Is the last thing I'd want would be you're the only person that's responsible for everything with release generation, which is what we have right now.
Pretty much.
Hey, Jackie, I'll take back what I just said and I'll wait for you to have your discussions with your EM about the proposals for you guys to do the CLI before I have a conversation with Elliot. Because where I was going was seeing if our incremental resources that we're bringing on through a contracting company could be a fit if this landed in our lab, but let you have your discussions first. And to echo what you're saying, my gut feel is if we head on the path of the CLI as the option, my gut feel is a great feature to give a brand new dev because it's not going to break anything right off the bat.
Yeah, I do agree with it. I guess that's the thing that's going forward, that it's completely new, and we've got some code that we can probably look at. Because we can look at the existing CLI, right, as a starting point. Steve, would you agree with that?
Can you repeat the question? Sorry.
The existing CLI that we've got, that's built into the runner. I mean, that will kind of perhaps be a bit of a starting point for this code.
Yes, I can give you some pointers. I was just looking at the code now to see what actually needs to be extracted. Okay. And like one of the most complex stuff would be, I would say, handling the error codes, right? Like the status codes from the APIs.
Yeah.
Like right now we just introduced responding to rate limits and things like that. So those kind of stuff kind of are rudimentary but needed for GitLab.com scale.
Yeah, because as this gets more complicated, that will be more of an issue, right? For the time being, I guess it's just it worked or it didn't, right?
Yep. And looking at things, they don't seem very, very complicated. I mean, all you need to do, like in hindsight, is just pick up the CI job token from the environment, which is just one method, and have that send it to an endpoint, and then respond to the status code you get from the response, and then define the CLI flags to be properly.
Okay. Piece of cake.
And
maybe if we can, have you as a maintainer on this and code review or whatever.
I don't mind. So I think I can spare like maybe 2 hours, like to kick these things off. Like let's set up the project together, kick things off, have it in our own namespace, and then we'll move it to gitlab.org when we feel like it's ready and done deal kind of thing.
I think that would be, if that's possible, that would be an awesome use of time. And, if we get Jaime on the same call and, kind of all do it together. And
I can help out on that part. I don't know,
would be really
unless Darren has any objections.
No, I think the initial 2 hours is fine. But honestly, we're going to have a lot of, everybody has a lot of pressure, but we're going to have a lot of pressure starting for 12 and 9 going on for the owner team. It's going to be fun. Let's just say that.
And Sean, you and I can talk a little bit about the direction of the product and how we feel like this should be timed out. I think there's a lot of risk right now in it, so I don't feel very comfortable saying that this is, it's tied to my maturity plans, but I just don't feel like saying that we should commit to delivering it in the next 2 milestones, given that I don't know how.
Yeah, given that, there are a lot of questions, maybe we should kind of do a bit more of a POC, get some basic working code, and then we'll have a very clear picture on how long it's going to take. Because, if Steve says it takes 2 weeks for him, then,
I say 2 weeks, including code review and all that kind of
Oh, yeah,
things.
of course, the whole process, right? But say for a new engineer, that's less, I think that's doubled, right, at least. Even if they're a Go guru, right? It's how does GitLab work, which is different from other organizations. And Okay.
Okay, that's perfect.
Awesome.
All right, thank you all so much. Let me know if you need anything. I appreciate your all's time.
Thanks, Jackie.
Thanks a lot, everyone.
Will anyone
Cheers.
write down notes what we discussed in the issue, or shall I do that?
I was gonna post this recording and
Okay,
then
yeah.
recap on what I know we have
Sounds
to
good.
do. Okay, bye y'all.
Thanks. See you.